Welcome, I'm Catherine Hadro, and this is EWTN Pro-Life Weekly. A filibuster failed. The Senate blocks 2 pro-life bills. We have complete analysis. No laughing matter. Alabama Senator Doug Jones mocks legislation banning late-term abortions. We speak out. 40 days for life. The prayer vigil is launching its Lenten campaign. We tell you what you need to know. Our top story, the Senate failed to pass 2 pro-life bills this week, which would have protected unborn babies who feel pain and babies who survive botched abortion attempts. The bills were the Pain-Capable Unborn Child's Protection Act and the Born Alive Abortion Survivors Protection Act. And they both failed to reach the necessary 60 votes to overcome a Democratic filibuster. The Pain-Capable bill, introduced by Senator Lindsey Graham, would have banned elective abortions after 5 months of pregnancy. That is when science indicates an unborn child can feel pain. The Born Alive bill, introduced by Senator Ben Sasse, would have required a baby who survives a botched abortion attempt receive necessary medical care. And joining us now from Capitol Hill is Nebraska Senator Ben Sasse. Senator, the Senate defeated not only your bill this week, the Born Alive bill, but the Pain-Capable bill as well. What's your reaction to this week's vote?
Well, Catherine, first of all, thanks for having me on and thanks for covering these 2 important stories. Obviously, there's a lot to be disappointed about in the fact that we got 56 votes for my bill and 53 votes for Lindsey's bill. I'm also an original co-sponsor of Senator Graham's bill, and we need 60 votes for this to proceed, so it's disappointing that we didn't get past 60. But there is some good news here, which is that the debate really is moving forward. The good news is the heart of the pro-life movement is not fundamentally about legislation. It's about winning hearts and minds, and the debates that are happening not just in the Capitol but across the country this week show that the tide is headed in the right direction because people are paying more attention to the most vulnerable among us, whether they be still babies in utero or babies that have already been born. And in both dimensions, you see more and more people waking up to the reality that these babies have dignity and we owe them protection.
Critics of this bill often argue infanticide is already illegal, or they call this an abortion restriction. There seems to be a lot of misinformation both on Capitol Hill and in the media. How do you respond to that?
Well, we respond, first of all, with the facts of pointing to the actual legislation at hand, and so I'm glad for the distinctions that you've drawn. So first of all, I want to be clear. I am solidly and lifelong and happily and proudly pro-life, and so I'm an original co-sponsor of Lindsey Graham's bill, but it is an abortion restriction bill. So a lot of the language that the media wants to use to write off the 2 bills together by calling them abortion restrictions bills, that is true of Lindsey's bill, and I do support his legislation, but my legislation isn't about abortion. It isn't about abortion restrictions. It's about babies that have already been born. And we're talking about whether or not you're going to provide protection and care for these little babies. And so when they say that infanticide is already illegal in the U.S., they're kind of one half right, which is active infanticide has been illegal in the U.S. since the year 2002. But there are 2 problems. First, there aren't actually penalties associated with it. About half the states have passed their own legislation to create penalties, but the other half don't. So that would be the case of, say, proactively, horrifically taking a pillow and smothering a little baby to death. That would be active infanticide. That is illegal, but without penalties in half the states. But passive infanticide is what actually happens in these abortion clinics, and that is not illegal. And so what happens is if a baby survives an abortion, they put her on a cart and they wheel her down a hall and they put her in a closet and leave her to die by exposure. We heard from medical experts and witnesses who've seen this in abortion clinics, and 8 of the 50 states actually collect some data. 42 states don't yet, but in 8 states we have data on this, and they leave the babies to die passively, and that's not illegal, and that's barbaric. We obviously should pass this legislation.
The Born Alive vote did not exactly split down party lines. 56 senators voted in favor of it, including 3 Democrats. Senators Bob Casey of Pennsylvania, Doug Jones of Alabama, and Joe Manchin of West Virginia. What do you want to say to your Democratic colleagues who bucked the trend in their own party to support the Born Alive bill?
Yeah, so first of all, you're exactly right. This was a majority vote, and it was a bipartisan vote, and we have a president standing by who would happily and enthusiastically sign this legislation if we could get it to his desk. So winning 3 Democrats is a big deal, though this bill, let's be clear, should pass 100-0. So we had 44 Democrats not with us, 41 actively filibustered, and 3 were off on the presidential campaign trail where they're pretending to kiss babies, but they wouldn't actually show up to vote to protect real live babies that are in harm's way. So we had 44 Democrats who weren't with us, but I do want to applaud the 3 that did come along. Nobody really believes that they should be voting the way they voted on this bill. They're just scared of the army of big abortion lobbyists. The Planned Parenthood organization, which is a cover operation for the abortion industry's doctors who make tons of money off abortion, they have intimidated people into not focusing on the reality of what is in the Abortion Survivors Born Alive Protection Act. And so we know that a lot of these 44 Democrats wish they didn't have to vote on this bill because they don't want to be out in public having to say something that makes the big abortion lobby mad. And so I want to applaud the 3 Democrats who at least had the courage on this bill to stand up and to engage the actual text of the legislation. And I'm grateful that all 53 Republicans voted with us, even though 2 of the 53 Republicans regularly don't vote with us on pro-life legislation. They admitted that this wasn't about abortion restrictions. This is about actual little babies already born.
And Senator, this is not the first time you have worked to pass the Born Alive bill. Why do you think it is so vital?
Well, I think we have to draw people's attention to what happens with the most vulnerable among us. And here, let's switch gears a little bit and talk about Lindsey Graham's legislation. In your introduction, you explained why the pain-capable movement and the pain-capable legislation starts at around 20 weeks. That's because that's the point at which, at a minimum, it may start much earlier, but at a minimum, that's the place at which we know a baby in utero can feel pain at 20 weeks of gestation, which is halfway through the process of gestating inside mom. And we know that when babies that parents want have in utero surgery, they get anesthesia by this stage because we can see them react in pain to the surgeries. And so the medical community is united about the fact that a baby at 35 weeks or at 35 weeks or at 25, now at 20 weeks gestation, when they get in utero surgery, they get anesthesia to protect them from that pain. It's the right way to treat one of God's little creatures. And all these babies are created with dignity in the eyes of God, and we should draw our neighbors' attentions more and more to what's happening in utero. And the sonogram and the ultrasound revolutions are showing more and more people the miracle of developing life inside moms, and it's making the younger generation more and more pro-life. And so we want to keep drawing more attention to this and force people to have these conversations about the moral responsibilities we have to love the weakest and most vulnerable among us.
Absolutely, and we thank you for your pro-life leadership on this and for taking the time to speak with us today. Senator Ben Sasse of Nebraska, thank you.
Thanks for your work, Catherine.
And joining us now is Prudence Robertson. She is the Communications Associate for the Susan B. Anthony List. Prudence, thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Pro-lifers have a majority in the Senate. Can you explain then why these pro-life bills did not pass?
Sure, absolutely. So Tuesday, the Senate debated these bills, and the vote that happens right after debate is called a cloture vote. And you need a cloture of 60. You need 60 yeas to pass that cloture vote and then move on to a final vote that actually passes the legislation. So that last vote only needs 51. You need a straight majority.
Okay.
But the cloture vote requires 60 votes, and unfortunately, Democrats are continuing to block these Born Alive and pain-capable bills.
What is the purpose then of scheduling a vote if there was never going to be that necessary support?
Sure. So the fact of the matter is that many Americans don't know that our nation allows for late-term abortion and for babies born alive to be left to die without any protection. So the debate surrounding these votes really allows to educate the public about what abortion law in America is. It also gives us an opportunity to show senators that across the board, Americans support legislation like this, common sense restrictions on abortion, and it also is an opportunity to put Senate Democrats on record with their abortion extremism. I mean, on Tuesday, we got them on record once again, failing to support pain-capable and born-alive bills that protect babies after 5 months of pregnancy and also after they're born.
Right.
And so just to get them on record it's really important to educate the public and, raise awareness about the importance of these bills.
And Prudence, both of these bills, the Born Alive and the Pain Capable, are largely compatible with American attitudes on life. Can you speak to that?
Yes, absolutely. So 64% of Americans believe that the Pain Capable Unborn Child Protection Act should be passed. You know, America is 1 in 7 nations that allows for late-term abortions, and that's just so extreme, and we need to do everything that we can to, you know, get America off of that list. That includes China and North Korea. And for Born Alive, 77% of Americans believe that babies born alive should be protected if they have survived a failed abortion. And so, you know, the fact that these bills across the board like have so much support really, you know, it should be a no-brainer for these senators.
Right. And Prudence, CNN this week had an article about the Born Alive bill, which included the phrase, quote, "a fetus that was born," to describe these babies who survive a botched abortion. How would you describe the media coverage of this week's pro-life Senate vote?
I mean, that phrase, in my opinion, was just utterly ridiculous and so dehumanizing to little babies that are born alive, that survive abortions, you know? And I think that that really is just an example of how abortion advocacy and abortion extremism have corrupted our culture, you know? They've transformed the language and the intellect in the way that people approach this issue, and you know, they feel that they have to, you know, sort of legitimize their opinion, and they use these more scientific phrases, these more educated words, but science is on the side of life. And you know, we on the pro-life side, we are the movement of truth, and science, you know, it points to life. It's scientifically proven that these babies feel pain and they deserve as much protection as any other baby. And we don't have to twist our words to get people to rally behind us because, you know, we are the movement of life.
Amen. Well, Prudence Robertson, thank you for that clarifying insight, and thank you for being here.
Yeah, absolutely.
The House of Representatives recently introduced the Global Health Empowerment and Rights Act. It's also known as the Global HER Act. This short, vague bill might sound like a good thing, but its objective is to undo pro-life protections. This bill would undo President Donald Trump's expanded Mexico City policy, which stops the use of taxpayer funding for groups that perform or promote abortions overseas. If the Global HER Act is passed, it would once again use American taxpayer dollars to fund abortions around the globe. That brings us to this week's call to action. Go to prolifeweekly.com to tell your representative to vote no on the Global HER Act. When you type in your information, we will connect you and your pro-life message directly to your U.S. representative. We cannot go back to spending our U.S. taxpayer dollars to fund abortion overseas. Contact your representative at prolifeweekly.com. Before the Senate voted on and failed to pass both the Born Alive bill and the Pain Capable bill, earlier this week, pro-life senators first took to the Senate floor to defend the life-saving pieces of legislation. Republican Senator Joni Ernst of Iowa is an original co-sponsor of both bills. During her Senate floor speech, Ernst called on her colleagues across the aisle to see this as a chance for bipartisan work.
Today I stand with my pro-life colleagues and asking our pro-choice friends, many of whom are mothers and fathers themselves, to meet us in the middle. We may not be able to get on the same page when it comes to recognizing the inherent value that each of these life holds, but surely we can agree that protecting our most vulnerable from painful death is a unifying and a humanitarian cause.
Senator Joni Ernst of Iowa joins us now from Capitol Hill. You are an original co-sponsor of both the Pain Capable bill and the Born Alive bill. Tell us why.
Yes, well, life is very, very valuable to me, and I believe that these bills represent a great step forward as we work on these pro-life issues in Congress. Both are very good bills. I'm proud to be an original co-sponsor on both.
And Senator, the Pain Capable bill has been nicknamed Micah's Law after Micah Pickering, a little boy who is from Iowa. Can you tell our viewers about Micah Pickering and his connection here?
Absolutely. Micah was born at 22 weeks gestational age, and he was a wanted child, but very tiny. But typically, folks think that at 22 weeks gestational age, babies wouldn't be able to survive. But they do. They are capable. They feel pain. And so the premise behind the pain-capable bill is that babies at that age, they do have the right to exist and to live. They feel pain in the womb. And so what Lindsey Graham's bill, the pain-capable bill, would prevent abortions after 20 weeks of gestational age when babies do feel pain. And so we are hoping to save those young lives. We think it's a very important bill, but we love to demonstrate that Micah Pickering, now a healthy, active, smart, energetic little boy at 7 years of age, he was a viable baby. And we want to show everyone else that these babies are the same, and that to abort after 20 weeks of age, it shouldn't happen in the United States of America.
Senator, you serve on the Senate Judiciary Committee, which recently held a hearing on the Born Alive bill. Your Democratic colleagues repeatedly called the Born Alive bill anti-abortion legislation, even though it does not involve abortion whatsoever. Why do you think they did this?
Well, you are absolutely correct in that the Democrats are calling the Born Alive bill anti-abortion, and the bill has nothing to do with abortion. What they will try to do is use that as a tactic to scare women away from the real intent of the bill, which is to save babies that have been born after a botched abortion. These are living, breathing babies that are born. They are born alive. And so they are outside of the mother's womb. They are babies, and they should be cared for.
Senator, pro-life legislation is often depicted as being anti-woman. What's your response to that?
I would say that every woman, every girl, regardless of age, in the womb to an old age, every woman should be respected. Every life is valuable, just as I said. So I see these bills as being very pro-woman. We're trying to protect that young girl, that baby in the womb, and make sure that she has every opportunity given to any other child that's wanted.
And finally, Senator, while I have you, can you just speak to, do you see opportunity for there to be bipartisanship when it comes to both of these pieces of legislation?
I am always hopeful. I am an eternal optimist, and I think that these bills and the stories behind some of these bills will resonate with our friends and colleagues on the left. And I am hoping that they do draw something from deep down inside of them and understand that we can be pro-life, and pro-life is pro-woman. And hopefully that they would come to understand that and support us on these very, very important pro-life measures.
Senator Joni Ernst of Iowa, thank you for your pro-life leadership with both of these bills and for taking the time to come and speak with us today.
Absolutely. Thanks so much, Catherine.
Thank you. Coming up, the start of Lent also marks the start of a major pro-life prayer vigil. We tell you what you need to know about the latest 40 Days for Life campaign as we speak with a former Planned Parenthood manager about the power of prayer in ending abortion. Welcome back to EWTN Pro-Life Weekly. I'm Catherine Hadro. Alabama Senator Doug Jones dismissed a question about the pain-capable Unborn Child Protection Act as, quote, stupid. That is this week's Speak Out segment. Before this week's Senate vote on both the Born Alive Act and the pain-capable bill, both of which were blocked, an Alabama constituent captured his exchange with Alabama Senator Doug Jones. He asked Senator Jones about the pain-capable bill, which would ban elective abortions at 5 months of pregnancy. That is when science indicates unborn babies feel pain. Take a listen to how the senator responded.
Do you think abortion should be banned after 5 months?
What stupid question have you got from me?
Do you think abortion should be banned after 5 months?
Sir, should abortion be banned? As I said, what a stupid...
You're voting on it next week, sir.
Yeah, and I'll vote on it next week. That's just like I did the last one.
And as Senator Jones said he would, he did vote against the pain-capable bill this week in the Senate. He voted against a bill protecting unborn babies who can feel pain in the womb. And in fact, the latest scientific evidence suggests babies can feel pain even earlier than 20 weeks in the womb. We now know the earliest neurons in the cortical brain are established by 6 weeks. Nerve synapses for spinal reflex are in place by 10 weeks. Sensory pain receptions develop around the mouth by 7 weeks. And this elected senator scoffed the scientific reality of our youngest citizens with a laugh. We cannot tolerate such a crass and ignorant response to our most vulnerable population. I'm going to pray for this Alabama senator, and I'm going to pray he takes some inspiration from another well-known former Alabama resident, the EWTN foundress herself, Mother Angelica, who spoke boldly in defense of the unborn, because life is no laughing matter. With the start of the Lenten season this week, the pro-life group 40 Days for Life is also kicking off its spring campaign. 40 Days for Life is a 40-day non-stop prayer vigil outside of abortion facilities across the globe. Organizers hope to put an end to abortion through prayer, fasting, and community outreach. Over 100 abortion facilities have closed since the peaceful vigil launched in 2007. The latest 40 Days for Life campaign kicked off on Ash Wednesday. It will run through Palm Sunday on April 5th. Joining us now via Skype from Texas is Sue Thayer for this week's Pro-Life Focus. She is the Director of Outreach for 40 Days for Life. Sue was previously a longtime center manager for Planned Parenthood before converting to the pro-life cause. Sue, thank you for joining us. And first off, can you speak to how this Lenten season really goes hand in hand with the 40 Days for Life strategy of prayer and fasting?
Well, the very foundation of 40 Days for Life, of course, is based on Scripture, the prayer and fasting, and, the 40 days is significant, but we've just seen such great success. And here we are at day 2 of our 40 Days for Life vigil, and we had our first save. Our first baby was saved within the first hour yesterday, so the whole staff, the whole team was just very excited to hear that. And over the next 40 days, those reports will continue to roll in about lives that are saved in front of abortion facilities, because we know that prayer and fasting works.
That is incredible. And Sue, for viewers who want to be a part of this campaign, what's the next step they have to take?
The very best way to connect with us is our website, 40daysforlife.com, and you can type in your location, your city, your community, and it will direct you to the nearest 40 Days for Life vigil to you. If you know that you have an abortion facility in your area and it's not listed on the 40 Days for Life website, that means that we need a leader there, and we would love to have people step up, and we would just really love to see a vigil in front of every single abortion facility in the country. But that's the best way you can look at the hours that are available to pray. It blesses the leaders so much to have new people sign up online to go down and pray. And really the goal is to fill all the hours of the vigil so that there's somebody there praying either 12 or 24 hours a day. And so it takes a lot of people and a lot of boots on the sidewalk, so to speak, to get out there and do it. But we've seen proof that, God answers every single prayer, and it is important. It's the way a lot of people get involved the first time in the pro-life world is to go and pray in front of an abortion facility. It is a little scary the first time, but you are so blessed by doing it. And usually once people do it, they just keep going back because they know it's the right thing to do.
That's incredible. And Sue, as I mentioned, you worked for years as a manager of a Planned Parenthood facility. When you worked in the abortion industry, what was your perception of pro-lifers who prayed outside? Is this a way to reach abortion workers as well?
It is. All those years that I worked at Planned Parenthood, we called the people out on the sidewalk crazy. We call them the crazies, the ones that came all the time. We would know their names and have some kind of unkind nickname for them, but we knew the ones that were effective in turning women around, and those were the ones that were kind. They showed the love of Jesus Christ. The ones that are yelling and angry and they're saying, you know, you're killing babies, you're going to go to hell, those kinds of things are just not very effective in saving lives. But we always knew the ones that were effective and feared them, actually, because in the abortion industry, you have a goal for number of abortions. There's a quota. And when there's somebody outside praying, even if it's just one person for a short time, it really makes it more difficult to hit your goal for that week or that month.
Well, that's incredible. There's been one save already. We'll continue to pray for everyone involved with 40 Days for Life. Sue Thayer, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Catherine. God bless you for all you do.
Oh, thank you. God bless you. And that does it for this edition of EWTN Pro-Life Weekly. We would love to hear from you with your thoughts on this week's show or even a story ideas for us. You are a big part of this program. So let's connect online. Find us on social media at EWTN Pro-Life, and you can always send us an email at prolifeweekly@ewtn.com. Until next week, remember, life is a gift. Your life is a gift. God bless.